The air in the grand boardroom of Sterling Holdings was so thick with tension it felt like a physical presence, pressing down on the polished mahogany table and the impeccably dressed executives seated around it. Sunlight, usually a cheerful presence, seemed to struggle through the vast panoramic windows, casting long, accusing shadows. At the head of the table sat Arthur Sterling, the CEO, a man whose reputation for ruthless efficiency was as legendary as the company he had built. His face, usually a mask of calm authority, was now a thundercloud. "This," he declared, his voice a low growl that nevertheless commanded absolute silence, "is an unmitigated disaster." He gestured with a dismissive sweep of his hand towards the architectural blueprints spread across the table. They depicted the proposed Sterling Tower, a skyscraper meant to be the crown jewel of the city's skyline, a testament to Sterling Holdings' power and prestige. But the blueprints, once a source of pride, were now a symbol of failure. $300 million, Sterling continued, his voice rising. And what do we have? A design that is structurally unsound, aesthetically uninspired, and according to our consultants, a potential wind tunnel that will literally whistle like a banshee through the city streets. This is not a monument, it's a mockery. The architects from the renowned firm, Vanguard Designs, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Mr. Thorne, the lead architect, a man whose ego was as towering as his failed design, stammered, "Mr. Sterling, with all due respect, our calculations were based on standard models. The wind shear, it's an anomaly, and the structural integrity is within acceptable parameters, albeit with some minor adjustments required." Arthur Sterling slammed his fist on the table, making the expensive pens jump. "Minor adjustments? We're talking about a building that will define our legacy. I asked for a masterpiece, a marvel of modern engineering and art. I got a glorified tuning fork that will hum the city to sleep with its structural flaws." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the faces of his executives and the architects, each one wilting under his furious scrutiny. "I want answers, and more importantly, I want solutions. I want the real architect, the one who can actually deliver on a vision, not just draw pretty pictures that fall apart under scrutiny." The room froze. The phrase, "the real architect," hung in the air, heavy with implication. It was a direct challenge to Vanguard Designs, an insult to their professional integrity. Mr. Thorne's face turned a mottled shade of red, but he remained silent, knowing that any defense would only fuel Sterling's wrath. Just then, the boardroom door creaked open. Everyone turned, annoyed at the interruption. It was Elena Petrova, the night shift janitor. She was a small woman, perhaps in her late 50s, with a mop of unruly gray hair pulled back in a loose bun and kind, tired eyes. She wore a faded blue uniform, a pair of worn sneakers, and carried a bucket and a mop, the tools of her trade. She had come to clean the room, as she did every Tuesday evening after the executives had departed. Elena froze too, caught in the sudden, oppressive silence. She mumbled an apology in her heavily accented English. "Oh, I am so sorry. I did not know you were still here. I will come back later." She began to back out, her face flushed with embarrassment. "Wait!" Arthur Sterling's voice boomed, startling her. "You're here now. Might as well stay. Perhaps you can offer a fresh perspective on this architectural abomination." He wasn't being serious, of course. It was a sarcastic jab, a way to vent his frustration, a cruel dismissal of the architects by implying even a janitor might have better ideas. A few executives chuckled nervously, and Mr. Thorne shot Elena a condescending glance. Elena, however, didn't seem to notice the sarcasm. Her eyes, usually focused on dust and grime, had drifted to the blueprints on the table. She took a hesitant step forward, her gaze fixed on the complex lines and figures. "The wind," she murmured, almost to herself, her brow furrowed. "It is not anomaly. It is predictable. Like a river. It flows around, yes, but it also creates eddies, currents. You must guide it, not fight it. Everyone in the room stared. Arthur Sterling, initially amused by his own dark humor, now watched her with a flicker of surprise. Mr. Thorne scoffed. "And how would a janitor know about fluid dynamics, pray tell?" Elena ignored him. She took another step, her hand, rough from years of scrubbing, reaching out towards the blueprints. "And this central core, it is too rigid, like a tree that does not bend. In strong wind, it will snap, or it will sing." She gestured with her hand, a graceful, almost intuitive movement. "You need flexibility, like a reed, or a dancer." A few more nervous chuckles, but Arthur Sterling wasn't laughing. He was watching Elena, a strange fascination growing in his eyes. Her simple, almost poetic descriptions, her confident gestures, they were at odds with her humble appearance. "And how would you propose to guide the wind, Ms. Petrova, is it?" Sterling asked, his voice losing its edge of sarcasm, replaced by a genuine, if still skeptical, curiosity. Elena hesitated, then took a deep breath. "You need to create channels, openings, not just for aesthetics but for function, to allow the wind to pass through, to dissipate its energy. And the core, it needs to be segmented, to allow for subtle sway, for movement, like a spine." She walked around the table, her eyes still glued to the blueprints. She pointed to a section near the top of the proposed tower. "Here, if you make this section porous, like a sieve, the wind will flow through, not against. And here," she moved to the base, "the foundation. It is too shallow for such height. You need deeper roots, like a mountain." Mr. Thorne finally found his voice. "This is preposterous. She's talking nonsense. This is highly complex architectural engineering, not some folk wisdom." "Is it?" Arthur Sterling interjected, his gaze still fixed on Elena. "Or is it something you missed, Mr. Thorne? Something so fundamental, so intuitive, that your complex algorithms overlooked it?" He turned to Elena. "Ms. Petrova, where did you learn this?" Elena's shoulders slumped slightly, and her gaze dropped to the floor. The moment of confidence, of almost forgotten passion, seemed to drain from her. "It is from a long time ago, in another life." She looked up, her eyes filled with a distant sadness. "I was an architect in my country." Silence. This time it was a different kind of silence. A stunned, incredulous silence. "An architect? This janitor?" Mr. Thorne burst out laughing, a harsh, derisive sound. "A janitor from some backwater country claiming to be an architect? This is absurd. Mr. Sterling, are you truly going to listen to this charlatan?" Arthur Sterling, however, wasn't laughing. He was staring at Elena, a puzzle piece clicking into place. He was a man who trusted his instincts, and his instincts were screaming at him. He had seen the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of the building, the way her hands moved, the simple elegance of her solutions. It wasn't the rambling of a madwoman, it was the quiet confidence of someone who truly understood. "Bring me a marker," Sterling commanded, his voice sharp. An assistant fumbled for one, handing it to him. Sterling then pushed the blueprints towards Elena. "Show me, Ms. Petrova. Show me what you mean. Draw it." Elena hesitated, her hand trembling slightly as she took the marker. It had been decades since she had held such a tool, decades since she had allowed herself to dream of lines and structures. But as her fingers closed around the marker, a spark ignited in her eyes, a flicker of the passion that had once defined her. She bent over the blueprints, and with a quiet intensity that captivated everyone in the room, she began to draw. Her lines were precise, confident, transforming the flawed design into something new, something breathtaking. She sketched in elegant, spiraling channels for the wind, creating a natural flow that would dissipate its force. She redesigned the central core, segmenting it, adding subtle, almost invisible joints that would allow for flexibility, like the vertebrae of a spine. She deepened the foundation, sketching in a complex root system that would anchor the tower with unparalleled stability. As she drew, she murmured explanations, her accent thick but her words clear. The wind, it is not enemy, it is partner. You must dance with it. And the building, it must breathe, it must live. The executives, initially skeptical, leaned in, their expressions shifting from disbelief to grudging admiration, then to outright awe. Mr. Thorne, his face pale, watched in stunned silence as his masterpiece was transformed before his very eyes into something truly extraordinary. Elena Petrovna's story was a testament to the crushing weight of circumstance and the enduring power of a forgotten dream. Born in a small, war-torn Eastern European country, she had been a brilliant architectural student, graduating at the top of her class. Her designs were revolutionary, blending traditional aesthetics with cutting-edge engineering. She had dreamed of building soaring structures that would touch the sky, monuments to human ingenuity. But war had shattered her dreams. Her country was ravaged, her family scattered. She had fled, a refugee, carrying nothing but the clothes on her back and the blueprints of a life unlived in her mind. She arrived in Cresthaven with nothing, no connections, no papers, no recognition of her qualifications. The architectural world was closed to her, a fortress of degrees and licenses she couldn't obtain. To survive, she took the only work she could find, cleaning offices. She scrubbed floors, emptied trash cans, and polished desks in the very buildings she had once dreamed of designing. She learned English slowly, painstakingly, but her accent remained a constant reminder of her foreignness, her otherness. She lived in a small, cramped apartment, her days a monotonous cycle of work and quiet solitude. The dream of architecture, once a blazing fire, had dwindled to a dying ember, buried under layers of exhaustion and despair. She had watched the Sterling Tower project unfold with a quiet, aching familiarity. She had seen the initial designs, the flaws, the missed opportunities. She had even, in her private moments, sketched out her own solutions on scraps of paper, hidden away in a shoebox under her bed. But she never imagined she would ever have the chance to share them. Arthur Sterling, a man who built empires on shrewd decisions, knew a diamond when he saw one, even if it was covered in dust. He looked at the transformed blueprints, then at Elena, her face flushed with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. "Ms. Petrova," he said, his voice now filled with genuine respect. "These are incredible. You've solved problems that our highly paid consultants couldn't even identify. You've given us a vision." He turned to Mr. Thorne, his gaze chilling. "Mr. Thorne, I believe your services are no longer required." Thorne stammered, tried to protest, but Sterling cut him off with a dismissive wave. "Get out." Then Sterling turned back to Elena, a faint smile touching his lips. "Ms. Petrova, I'm offering you a position. Head architect for the Sterling Tower project, and a permanent position as Chief Design Officer for Sterling Holdings. Your salary will reflect your talent, and your first task will be to oversee the complete redesign and construction of this building. Your vision." Elena stared at him, her mind reeling. It was too much, too sudden, too impossible. "But I am janitor. I have no papers, no license here." "Nonsense," Sterling declared. "Your talent is your license. We'll handle the paperwork. We'll get you the best legal team, expedite everything. And as for your current role," he gestured to the mop and bucket, "consider yourself promoted, effective immediately." The executives, initially shocked, now began to murmur their congratulations, their faces a mixture of awe and calculated deference. They had just witnessed a corporate legend in the making, a moment that would be talked about for years. The transformation of Elena Petrova was as dramatic as the transformation of the Sterling Tower blueprints. She moved into a spacious apartment, her days no longer defined by scrubbing floors, but by designing soaring structures. She worked tirelessly, her passion reignited, her mind a whirlwind of creative solutions. She assembled a team of engineers and designers, many of whom had initially scoffed at the janitor architect, but who quickly came to respect her unparalleled vision and intuitive understanding of form and function. The Sterling Tower, under Elena's guidance, rose from the ground, a testament to her genius. It was no longer a rigid, singing monolith, but an elegant, spiraling structure that seemed to dance with the wind, its innovative channels and flexible core a marvel of modern engineering. It became a landmark, not just for its height, but for its beauty, its resilience, and the story behind its creation. Elena, once a forgotten refugee, became a celebrated architect, her name synonymous with groundbreaking design. She spoke at international conferences, her accent still thick but her words now carrying the weight of authority and inspiration. She never forgot her past, however. She established a foundation to help other refugees, particularly those with hidden talents, to rebuild their lives and pursue their dreams. Arthur Sterling, a man who had always prided himself on his ability to spot talent, often recounted the story of Elena Petrova, the janitor who became his chief architect. It was a story that humbled him, reminded him that genius could be found in the most unexpected places, hidden beneath layers of circumstance and prejudice. The boardroom, once a place of tension and frustration, became a symbol of innovation and possibility. And every Tuesday evening, when the executives had departed, a new janitor would come to clean the room, perhaps unaware of the silent revolution that had once unfolded within its walls, a revolution sparked by a CEO's desperate plea for a real architect and the quiet courage of a woman who dared to raise her hand. Elena Petrova's journey was a powerful reminder that talent knows no boundaries of class, origin, or circumstance. It simply waits, sometimes patiently, sometimes desperately, for the moment to be seen, to be heard, to finally build the dreams that have long been hidden in the shadows. And sometimes, all it takes is one desperate CEO, one unexpected interruption, and one brave woman to reveal the true architect within.